What I was noticing for so many years is that many people feel like they're a victim to their circumstances. They feel like life is happening to them. And we want to feel like there's peace and that there's a lot of joy in life. And we want to feel excited about the things that we're doing. It's very hard to do that when you are constantly reacting to life instead of really being the decider of what your life looks like.
Welcome to Frontline Women, a show dedicated to women on the leading edge of change and culture renewal in America. I'm Dalisia Coppersmith, and I'll be your host and guide as we explore emerging issues and opportunities for women to lead side by side with men every day. So let's get off the sideline and onto the front line right now. Why do so many of us pull punches so often in terms of the impact that we're making in our career or the promotion that we want or the big project that we want to work on? Why do so many of us leave it to the mercy of fate? Like we think fate is going to take care of us in some way. Well, our guest today is going to help us take a look at this common misstep that women make so that we can own our impact starting today. And if you're a woman who is confident and competent and you believe that you're owning your impact, I personally think that there are ways in which we are not. There are ways in which we are still at the mercy of fate or other people's decisions. Another side of this is that we may even think that we're not making an impact. And to me, that's the worst thing of all, because we're totally unaware of what our impact is. And so we're going to work on this issue today so that we can own it and live it and walk the talk more than we have in the past. Steph teaches people how to be impact ready so they can have a consistent, positive influence in their lives, relationships, or businesses by living with intention, leading with confidence, and creating meaningful, sustainable change. And this, Steph, I love. I grabbed this from your website. In Steph's words, we are always having an impact, so let's make it matter. Steph, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me and for bringing light to this topic of being impact ready. I love it.
Yeah, I heard Steph speak, and I've worked with her in a conference before, and she really embodies everything that we're going to talk about today. Like she's living it, and I can't wait for you to hear her story. I am going to start out by asking her a little bit of her background, but do not tune out, okay? This is not just a reflection, a walk back in time. Like I'm asking her to talk about this because I believe she is a living example of what we all need to do in terms of discovering the bigger picture. Sometimes it can be a surprising journey. So what created your awareness that acupuncture and fitness, which is your primary career before, that those things had become a foundation for the work that you're doing today and not your final destination? Tell us about a moment when you had that
Yeah.
realization that there was a bigger picture here.
Well, I think, like most people, you have a career for a certain amount of time and you have something that you've invested a lot of energy and resources into. And for me, that was acupuncture and Chinese medicine. I've been practicing for 15 years. I taught fitness for 10 years in Portland, Oregon. And, after spending so much time and energy in a space and a career, you get to this point where you sort of feel like there's a shift in you and you're not finding as much satisfaction or joy from these endeavors. And for me, it was just sort of an organic and natural and long time shift that was coming. And I think I just realized, I'm not getting the same type of satisfaction from this type of work, even though it's still very meaningful to me. I'm feeling pulled in a different direction. I think that's just such a very common place to be. And so I don't know if there was one specific moment that created that. I think it was a general frustration, a general dissatisfaction where you're just uncomfortable and you feel like, God, there's something else out there for me. My scenario, it was being of service in the way of like talking about impact, realizing that for a lot of people, they have no awareness of the energy that they bring into a room. I saw that in my clinical experience. I saw that in teaching fitness. People would walk in with a bad attitude and expect me to give them energy. And after years of that, I thought, God, people are just not aware of the impact that they have. And I started to become very invested in this idea that we could do it differently and people need to remember that they're powerful. And I think there's this idea of dharma your life's work, your life's purpose. I think for me, it used to be these two other things, and I've used that up. And I think that for many people, they use up dharma in their life as they should. And with different seasons, different dharma can come in. And now here I am thinking about how can we be more purposeful and impactful in our lives so that we can enjoy our lives more and we can feel more empowered. And that's something that a lot of people miss.
So it's more of an evolution for you than a specific moment.
Definitely.
Yeah. And
Definitely.
what I I was thinking about when you were talking is when you said people have no idea the energy that they bring into a room, and you're coming from Chinese medicine, 15 years of experience, at least
Yeah.
15 years of that. Absolutely. I mean, as coaches, we are receiving energy, whether even if it's an online conversation we're having with
Yes.
someone that we don't have to be in the room with them. There is an energy that all of us bring into a room or a call, even on a phone call where we're not looking at people. So there is an energy, and sometimes our clients or our friends or for people that are in management, your teammates, they come to you to either dump their negative energy on you.
Very
So
often.
you're this receptacle for their
Yes.
negative energy, or they come to you to try to take your energy. And
Yes.
that doesn't work. I mean, anybody that studies whether it's energy medicine or just the principles around our vibratory rates and things like that, our emotions, you can't get positive energy from other people. We can have a positive impact on each other, but what I love about what you help people with is really looking at and owning what's going on inside of them. And you can place yourself into a different environment. You can read a book. You can go out for a hike or a walk or something. And yes, you can change your energy, but it isn't those external things that are changing your energy. You're changing it. They might be inspiring that. And you're an expert in having people really look at that. And I would love to hear what kind of experiences informed the work you do now, or what you've brought in, what insights you've brought in from that.
Well, what I was noticing for so many years is that many people feel like they're a victim to their circumstances. They feel like life is happening to them. And it leaves people feeling very disempowered. I mean, you don't feel like you have any control. You're not the captain of your own ship. And that's a terrible feeling. And when we think about what we want for our lives, we want to feel fulfilled. We want to feel like there's peace and that there's a lot of joy in life. And we want to feel excited about the things that we're doing. It's very hard to do that when you are disempowered, when you are a victim, when you're constantly reacting to life instead of really being the decider of what your life looks like. And also just not feeling like you have any agency. And so what I was noticing this clinically, but even just in day to day, in fitness, when you have people coming to a group fitness class, it's just a perfect test kitchen for seeing humanity and personality showing up and witnessing people dealing with their day to day stuff. And so over time, I was just seeing, man, what if people could decide their energy? What if they took ownership of it? I call it radical ownership, meaning we take responsibility for all the things that are in our sphere, our feelings, our thoughts, our actions. We are not taught to do that. And so for a lot of people, it's just a totally foreign concept. But God, what could be possible if instead of being reactive and inconsistent, we could actually be proactive, do things on purpose, and choose the path for our life. And
Absolutely.
that's really what got me thinking about this concept of being ready to impact, being impact ready in general. People just don't think about it that way.
No, they don't. I even laughed at this concept of the law of attraction when that was really popular, because they made it honestly, they made it a little bit cheesy.
Sure.
But when we look at manifesting or attracting things, it's easy to dismiss, and especially people who are very logical. The types who don't like emotion, they don't like to deal with the invisible things. That it's easy to dismiss all of that. But what if something, whether it was you or some life experience, caused them to ask the question, what have I attracted into myself in my life? What have I brought in? Because that's what's really going on, isn't it?
Yeah. And people can feel you, whether you want to think or talk about energy or not. Energy is always happening. and people can feel where your energy is and they will match it. So I speak with my coaching clients all the time about deciding the energy that you want to bring into a room. And it's amazing when you think about if somebody comes into a place with a high level of energy, people are going to match that. And so are opportunities. So are conversations. So is conflict resolution. So are leadership opportunities versus coming in at a low level. And when you think about it that way, it's very clear why things are working out the way things are working out in your life. And people are when they open their eyes to that, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I very much have been operating at a low level." And it's no wonder that I'm getting low level outcomes.
Absolutely. And I think it's is definite. It is going to happen that there are going to be problems, there are going to be challenges and obstacles.
Yes.
So deciding to be more intentional, with our impact and with our energy
Yes.
doesn't guarantee an easy road. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of coaches in your space make. They make people think that if they just have positive energy, it's going to be smooth sailing. And I don't think that's the case. Although I do think that if we approach things with ease and with intention, then they can feel easier. Even the problems can feel easier. So I don't know if I
100%.
made sense of what I was just saying, but talk about that. What is the road when you start to own your impact and energy, and then you encounter the inevitable obstacles? What's the difference?
Well, I like that you say inevitable obstacles because what we can acknowledge is that challenge is always going to be a part of life. And frankly, we wouldn't want it any other way because if we don't have resistance, if we don't have friction, we don't have opportunities to grow. There is no expansion without that contrast. And so having that is a really good thing. But we as humans are the ones who attach meaning to circumstances. And
Yes.
we can tell the story. So we can tell the story that life is happening to me and I am a victim to it and it is my suffering. Or we can tell the story of this is happening for me. This is an opportunity for growth, even if I didn't ask for it and even if it's not my fault. And I will use it in some way. And to be able to be in choice around that perspective is one of the most empowering things that I've ever encountered or learned in my life. The difference between those energies is astronomical.
Yeah, and that's one thing for those listening. If you can think about the challenges that you're frustrated with by right now in your career, let's say, and how you think it shouldn't be that way. If we can flip that script and say, this is like the weights in the gym, because if you go to the gym and you just squat the bar, let's just use that. You only squat the bar because that's easy. Well, that's okay. It's better than doing nothing, but
Yeah.
you're not necessarily getting stronger. So that resistance that we get or the obstacles that we face, those are the weights in the gym that are making us stronger, and if we begin to see it that way, we spend fewer nights ruminating over a conflict or belly aching
Yes.
to our spouse or our partner that we haven't gotten that promotion we feel we deserve. Instead, we're looking at it and saying, okay, what have I attracted to myself, and what
Yeah.
have I not attracted to myself yet? And we look at it as a fascinating puzzle. That's how we're growing, how we're evolving. And instead of it being life should be easy, it's not easy now, so I'm mad.
We make the mistake of assuming that life should be without challenge. And I think it's a colossal mistake because we wouldn't even want that life. You cannot see beauty if you have nothing to show you the contrast between the dark and the light.
Oh, pause right there because you just led into my next question. Okay. So when I first heard you speak, when I listened to your podcast, by the way, her podcast is Impact Ready, always fantastic every single time.
Thank you.
But when I listen to you, there is an urgency to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that when I asked you about your own realization that you had a bigger impact to make.
Yeah.
But can you tell us a little bit about where that urgency comes from and what has been going on in your life that maybe has made you feel even more determined to help people with this?
There is such an urgency. There's life has given me many of those moments that shake you awake and sort of help you break out of the matrix a little bit, and see that the last thing that you would ever want is to be at end of life looking back and having regrets that you didn't move and you didn't take the risks and you didn't live fully. I think it started very young for me. When I was 7 years old, my dad passed away, and I immediately, even at a very young age, realized that life was short. And that was a lesson. That's a lesson that you don't actually learn until much later in life. And I knew it to some degree. And I always wanted to live a bigger life as a result. And through a series of events in my life, I was shown that if you want to live a big life, you have to step into truth. You have to do the things that are hard. You have to take risks. I had to contend with the fact that I was gay growing up. I was very afraid to come out. It took me until I was 30 years old to come out to my friends and family. And the turning point for me was realizing that I was never going to have an authentic big life if I didn't take that risk. I was lucky enough to meet the love of my life at some point after that. And shortly after we were married, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. 6 months into our marriage. And that was another shake you awake moment where you think you've got it all figured out. You think life is easy and it should be easy. And then all of a sudden life says, no, challenge is part of it. How are you going to deal with this? And throughout that experience, I was very shaken awake to the fact that I had a lot of old patterns of dealing with stress and fear and hard stuff. And unless you face that, and unless you take ownership of it, nothing will change. And so I very much had a flashlight that was just shining brightly on all of my blind spots to show me, Steph, you want a big life? You need to change some things. You need to take ownership of some stuff.
Yeah. And that's just part of your story. So I want you to
It is.
continue. But even with that part, the loss of a parent, coming out, even though you think, okay, well, you look young. Why did you wait so long? You're living in modern times, but it's a
Yes.
very personal thing. And then, okay, I'm going to live the big life. I'm going to live in integrity
Yeah.
and honesty. And you find the love of your life. You have to learn to become a step parent, which
I
I know
have two
you have got.
stepdaughters.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a challenge. Then your wife gets breast cancer and you all
Yeah.
go through that journey.
Yeah.
And so what's happened since then? So you navigated all of that. Anything else come up?
Yes. Yeah, my wife was diagnosed in 2018. It was a really big moment in our life. Lots of learning, lots of growth and expansion and struggle. And then you get through all of that. And I've been very much pursuing this new career path and pouring myself into work that feels very purpose driven. And then again, life shows up and says, wait a minute, you have more to learn and you have a lot more to grow. And so in March of this year, I was actually diagnosed with breast cancer myself. And I swear to God, Dalisia, before my diagnosis, when they were trying to figure it all out, I thought, you know what? This cannot be my story. There's no way that this could be my story. But it turns out it can be your story. And what we said earlier was the constant in life is challenge. And so here I am going through treatment. I am just about to finish chemotherapy. I'm 15 of 16 chemotherapy treatments down. I have one more to go. And I have an
Congratulations.
upcoming surgery. Prognosis is very good. But for the past 5 months, I have been walking the walk, as you said, and really having to lean into the lessons and the radical ownership that I talk about with my clients. I'm having to live it and walk it. I can already see the lessons. I can already feel gratitude for it, even though it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do mentally, physically, emotionally.
I think it just magnifies, intensifies what you're trying to do, because if anyone has a reason to fold up under the blanket on the couch and feel sorry for herself, after helping your wife through breast cancer, now you're going through it, managing your business, and you're not stopping there. I
No,
know all the things that you have going.
you
You
do.
are out there making an impact.
Yeah.
And you're incredibly inspiring in that way. Inspiring, you can sit there and be inspiring to people. That's not the end. That's not the end goal. The end goal is you want other people to get moving.
I
figuring
do.
out their impact, being intentional with it, not allowing themselves all the excuses of, well, I'm sick, you know, well, life is hard. Well, it's hard to have a business or be a manager. Watching you, it's almost like you're surfing over those problems. It's like I'm seeing you out there surfing over waves. It's cool. There's a
It
wave,
is a lot of riding the waves. Yeah.
and
Right.
I think that is what you help people to see, and your story is only, I guess the word is amplified by what you're going through now, because you're not slowing down and you're not folded up under the blanket on the couch all day because you are dealing with this challenge. You're using that to hold yourself accountable for
Yeah.
doing what you teach.
Well, I think I'm very grateful for all of the work that I've had in the past, clinical experience and working with people in so many different facets for so many years, because what I can acknowledge is that my experience is not unique. And so many people go through hardship of various degrees. Yes, in this scenario, it might be breast cancer, but in someone else's scenario, it's a divorce, it's the loss of a child, it's
Loss of a job.
it's loss of a job, it's loss of a home, it's dealing with aging parents. There's so much tremendous weight that people carry. And so I have the honor and the privilege of knowing that this is not a unique experience. And that feels good to know that, because you feel less alone. And you also feel like, no, this is universal. And how do the people who do well through this, how do they do it? And what I've observed is that, again, it comes back to this choice that you make. Is this going to take me down? Is this going to be my suffering? Or is it going to be an opportunity that I can use at some point? It doesn't mean there aren't hard days. There are hard days, but I can still choose my energy. I can still choose to look for the light and the beautiful moments, because there's so many out there every single day, even on the days where I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where I want to be. I don't want to do it the old way anymore. I want to do it this way.
And I think part of what I observe anyway, from the outside of your life, is it seems like this is teaching you something about letting others be there for you.
Well, when you're a caretaker, when you're a practitioner, it's very easy to be the one in control. And it's very easy to be the one that's giving all the time. When you're the coach, when you're the leader, the comfort zone is to give,
Yeah. To be the
to
rock.
to be the rock. And I've been that rock since my dad passed away when I was 7 years old in my family. And so to break apart some of those old patterns and be on the receiving end of love and energy and light, it is one of the greatest gifts of this process. Because if we are not capable of being on the receiving end, if we can't create that two-way pathway, we are shortchanging ourselves and we will burn out. And I had to face that, the fact that I would burn out if I didn't let my guard down and be open to other people's impact.
Yeah. And just that idea of relaxing mentally and emotionally and letting other people be there for you is so foreign to so many of us. I know a lot of women that I work with and that I'm friends with. They're just like you said. They're so used to being the rock
Yes.
that's their comfort zone, and it's really weird to let other people in
Yes.
to be there for us.
Yeah.
Whether it's somebody bringing a meal to you or making a music video for you, like your wife did. That was
I
fantastic.
know.
and,
I
and
know.
those are the things that show us that, yeah, we are loved and cared about. And if we can't stop to receive that it is a light, in our life when we allow people to do that for us. If we can't do that, we're just always nose to the grindstone, giving and being the rock and all of that. We're kind of missing the other point of life. Life isn't just about hard times and growth. It's also about receiving love. It's about being cared
Absolutely.
for. So we've got to make sure that's in there too.
Absolutely. And the connection, I always think about it this way. How does it feel for me to be able to give to people in that way and to support in that way? It feels life giving. It builds the relationship, it builds the connection. And to be on the receiving end of that, what would it be like for me to cut that off and say, no, I don't want it? Well, I'd be severing the connection. I'd be severing that person's impact. I don't want to do that. And
Right.
so you really have to think about it zoom out and think about it from that perspective. Don't be the stopgate for someone else's impact in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so, so important. Oh my goodness. So that's been beautiful to watch because
Thank you.
I don't know you well enough to know every moment of your life, but I was picking up that you were a caretaker, a provider, a healer, and all of this for other people. And
Yeah.
and that you mentioned control, always managing and controlling
Yeah.
things. And when we finally take a break from that, when we finally receive support, that's when we find our best selves. That's when we come into balance.
And a big part of that radical ownership that I was talking about is knowing what is yours to own and what is yours to release. And a lot of the stuff I've had to learn how to release a lot of the control that was never mine to begin with and really focus on what I can control. And that is receiving love and light from other people. It's choosing my energy, it's choosing my mindset. It's moving and exercising every day, even though I don't feel like it. That is the stuff that I can own. A lot of stuff, there's a sea of things I can't control. Yeah.
So how I'm going to wrap back around to the energy we bring into a room.
Yes.
How has all of this changed the energy that you bring into a room, whether it's with your family or with clients?
Oh, it's just such a privilege to be here. And I think we forget that. Like we forget, we get lost in the nuance and the minutia and the noise of the world. We forget that it's just such a privilege to be here and to be in relationship with people and to have family and have friends and have colleagues to complain about, like it is a privilege and an honor to be able to be here. And when you start to have your health be in question, everything comes into clarity because if you don't have your health, you really don't have anything. And so you just get stripped down in so many ways, emotionally, physically, your eyelashes fall out. Thankfully, I haven't lost my hair yet, but you get stripped down in a lot of ways. And when what is left is relationships and what a reverence for life and just the love that we give and the
Yeah.
impact that we have.
I wanted to ask you if your experiences, yours and your wife's experiences with your illness and treatment, have caused you to live with more urgency, in terms of, don't miss a minute, get everything done, or has it caused you to be more accepting, relaxed, and open? The picture that I got from what you're saying is it's a little bit of both, but it's a healthy urgency in the form of intention, but it is with presence and acceptance.
I think there's a softness that comes with some of this experience, a softness to life, and also just a more inviting ease in instead of like grinding all the time. But there's also, rather than an urgency, I would say almost more of an intention. There's more intention. We celebrate a lot, my wife and I. We celebrate everything. We celebrate all the little things. And our friends are like, you guys are over the top with your celebrations. Like anniversaries, and you guys travel a lot. And it's like, yeah, we do. We do. Because we know what we have. We know that we're lucky. We know that it's a privilege to be here. So there's that side of it also. And then I think it gives you a boldness, a courage, because you're like, whoa, this could have ended differently. And I don't want to be looking at end of life saying, I didn't take the risks. I was too afraid to do this. I didn't give myself permission to shift into a new role or a new job or, a new identity. I never want to be that person. And when you're looking at your health in that way, you're like, I better move. I better
Mhm.
be bold.
Right. Yeah, because we won't always have it. That much we know.
Right.
Even if you navigate an illness and you're in remission, eventually, we are going to face
We're all in the same boat here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So when we hope that somebody's going to notice our talent, when we wait until like the right time in our life when it's going to be convenient to write that book or to
Yeah.
start a business or whatever it is,
Yeah.
look how many years we lose when we do that. So how do you help people to get out of neutral in that way and to have the courage and some process for looking at this and getting into gear so that they can own their impact. How do you do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm no stranger to self-doubt and insecurity and all the saboteurs that everybody deals with, people pleasing and all that stuff. As I said, it took me 30 years to come out to my friends and family. So I'm very familiar with that. But having gone through all that, my biggest takeaway is people don't care about you as much as you think they do.
True.
They don't care what you do as much as you think they do. They're worried about them. And so when you really embody that and integrate that, it helps you understand this is my life. I'm the only one who can forge my path. I'm the only one who has to live in this body, and no one else has to deal with the consequences of that. And so to really integrate that feels like freedom. And what I would say to women and what I say to men also is take radical ownership of your life as much as you can. Because when you do that, when you say, I am responsible for my feelings and my thoughts, but also my dreams and my actions and the way I communicate and my energy, the more you can take ownership of that, the more you have access to solutions. And then things get illuminated where you didn't see them before. Little pathways, little opportunities, little dreams and inspirations that lead you to the life that you really want to live, the one that feels aligned.
Yeah, that you couldn't pick it out from a list of
No, you don't
careers
even
or
know what you
activities.
want it to look
It
like.
has to, it really does. It has to emerge from within.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just tell people if you can take radical ownership, that is the start to getting access to what it is that's really going to feel like the joyful, fulfilled life you want.
Yes. My goodness. I know that anyone listening, that you got something that you needed today, because Steph, her story is incredible. And whether you have faced an illness, or you have faced coming out, or you have faced changing careers, whatever it is in your life, we've all had challenges. They're going to continue.
They
And
are going to continue.
they're the weights in the gym, right? They're making us
Yes.
stronger. But it isn't just about navigating the challenges. Yes, we're on the surfboard, hopefully, and we're riding the waves of life with a little more ease. That's one of the goals. But the other is that impact, the impact that we have on others, even on ourselves, but then the world around us, and what we're going to do in our careers and our lives to take what's inside of us, a wisdom, a brilliance, a beauty that's inside of us, and get it out into the world, because it's hidden right now until you start letting it out. Other
And
people
it's
can't see it.
exponential. You are an exponential being. It is going to have impact beyond what you'll ever see.
Well, Steph, thank you so much for being here. Of course, in the show notes, if you all love her as much as I do, and you feel like owning your impact is something that you want to work on this year, Steph's got some great resources, and you can reach out to her anytime to start a conversation. Thank you so much, Steph. I adore you. I hope that you get everything in life that you deserve, because you're giving so much to the rest of us out here.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. I love what you're doing too.
Thank you for being a frontline leader in your world, Steph, and to everyone else, same. And I will see you again soon.